an emperor, lord of golden crowns, grand palaces, and mighty armies. The heart of Rome beats in his hands, but in the pitch-black night, in a lonely tent in the desert under the flickering shadow of a candle, he's just a man. Pen in hand, whispering to his soul. That's Marcus Aurelius. The throne tried to chain him, but he set his spirit free. How does an emperor find peace in the grip of chaos? Or the real question, how do you stand tall in the storms of your own life? Come on, let's live this epic story together. Because this isn't just his story, it's ours too. 121 AD, Rome. The city's a wild mix of glory and chaos. Golden temples reach for the sky. Marketplaces are packed with people, and the clash of swords echoes from gladiator arenas. The Tiber River sparkles with the red glow of the setting sun. In a narrow street, a boy was born. His name? Marcus Aurelius Antoninus. Born into a wealthy family, but fate had no plans for him to live an ordinary life. He lost his dad at 3. His mom, Lucilla, gave him a home full of love. But Marcus's heart was drawn beyond stone walls, out to the endless stars. While other kids ran through the streets laughing, he'd sit in his courtyard, lost in thought under the night sky. His mom would later recall the questions he whispered. Why does life feel so heavy? Why is happiness so hard to find? These weren't just a kid's innocent wonders. They were the soul of a sage. At 7, he met a beggar in the marketplace. The man's sunken face and tattered clothes pierced Marcus' heart. He handed over the few coins in his pocket and turned to his mom, eyes brimming. Why do some have everything while others beg for a scrap of bread? Lucilla touched his cheek and whispered, "The world's not fair, Marcus. But you can be." Those words echoed deep within him. Years later, in his meditations, he'd write, "Justice is the only treasure you truly own. Never let it go." The world was cloaked in greed and schemes, but Marcus felt he could spark a light with his virtues. One day, he saw a farmer cheated by a wealthy merchant. Anger flared in his small frame, but he remembered his mom's words, "Be fair." That moment, he vowed to live for virtue. Another time, he overheard a neighbor yelling at a slave. Marcus ran over and stepped in. "He's got a soul, how can you forget that?" Even as a kid, justice was his sword. On another day, he saw a street kid crying from hunger. Marcus shared his bread, and when the kid smiled, his heart warmed. One person's smile can change the world, he thought. So how do you keep justice alive in your life? When you face unfairness, what path does your soul choose? At 10, Marcus' world got rocked. His teacher, Rusticus, opened the door to Stoic philosophy. Holding Epictetus' writings, he said in a stern voice, "The world's not in your control, Marcus. But your reactions? Those are all you." Those words hit young Marcus like a lightning bolt. Epictetus' line burned into his mind. Freedom's not in external events. It's in how you respond. Marcus turned it into a mantra. When he heard a friend getting unfairly chewed out, he felt the hot wave of anger but stopped himself. Heart pounding, he took a deep breath. Their anger is their chain, he thought. My peace is my choice. That's where the Stoic idea of the dichotomy of control was born. When a teacher hit him with harsh criticism, it stung, but he stayed calm. In his meditations, he later wrote, "Criticism can't hurt you unless you let it." Another day, during a game, his friends left him out. Marcus swallowed his tears and whispered to himself, "Their choice, not my pain." That was the first seed of Stoicism's inner fortress. One night, Rusticus asked, "Why do you think so much?" Gazing at the stars, Marcus replied, "Because my soul's as vast as the universe." So how do you handle criticism? Do you see it as a wound or a teacher? By 12, Marcus fully embraced the Stoic way. He ditched fancy beds and slept on a mat on the floor. His mom, Lucilla, was stunned. "Why not live like a prince?" she asked. With a spark in his eyes, Marcus shot back, "Because I want to live like a human." In Meditations, he wrote, "Live simply. Everything unnecessary weighs down your soul." Stoicism's principle of moderation shaped him. At a relative's lavish feast with tables piled high with exotic foods, Marcus stuck to bread and water. "Wealth fills the stomach, not the soul," he muttered. At a festival, while his friends bragged about their new tunics, he rocked a patched-up one. "Clothes don't cover the soul," he wrote. When a relative offered him an expensive gift, he politely declined. "Give me virtue, that's enough." In another moment, he shared a meal with a slave. The slave, shocked, asked, "Why eat with me?" Marcus smiled, "Because you're human too." One day, his teacher Fronto told him, "Wealth brings freedom." Marcus shook his head. "No, freedom starts in the soul." So how much do you embrace simplicity? How brave are you when it comes to shedding unnecessary burdens? At 17, Marcus caught the eye of Emperor Hadrian. Hadrian saw his calmness, his smarts, his virtue, and picked him to be Antoninus Pius' adopted son and heir. When Marcus got the news, his heart skipped a beat. "I want to be a philosopher, not an emperor," he whispered into the dark night. Under the stars, his mind wrestled with a storm. Is power a trap? Will my wisdom be enough to carry this burden? Stoicism gave him a compass. You can't choose your fate, but you can choose how to face it. In his Meditations, he wrote, "Wherever fate takes you, go with virtue." That was his first big choice. Instead of rejecting the throne, he chose to carry it like a Stoic. He asked Rusticus, "How do I bear this weight?" Rusticus looked him in the eye and said, "With virtue. Ask yourself with every decision, is this just?" Marcus carved those words into his heart. One night, mulling over this choice, he whispered to himself, "If this is my fate, I'll live it like a sage." Another day, he clashed with Fronto, who was trying to teach him the power of rhetoric and fame. Marcus said, "Words sway ears, not hearts." Fronto snapped, "Emperors rule with words." Marcus, with a calm smile, replied, "But a wise man rules with virtue." So how do you face heavy responsibilities? How do you shape the roles fate hands you with virtue? At 19, Marcus trained under Antoninus Pius, who taught him statecraft, patience, and justice. One day, he saw a villager complain about an unfair tax collector. Antoninus listened for hours and found a fair solution. Marcus never forgot that moment. In Meditations, he wrote, "A leader is the servant of his people." That's where Stoicism's principle of justice took root. When a senator challenged Antoninus, Marcus saw him persuade with patience. Patience is stronger than power, he thought. Another day, he saw Antoninus pardon a criminal. "Why not punish him?" Marcus asked. Antoninus replied, "Because mercy is the other side of justice." Marcus noted it down. Mercy isn't weakness, it's strength. One night, he saw Antoninus share a meal with a villager at the same table. Surprised, Marcus asked, "Why do this?" Antoninus smiled, "Because we're all human." Marcus wrote, "Virtue means treating everyone as equals." So how much do you lean on patience and mercy? Do you choose understanding over anger? 161 AD was the turning point of Marcus's life. Antoninus Pius died, and at 40, Marcus became emperor of Rome. The throne might have looked like a triumph, but it was a test. Rome was teetering on the edge of chaos, war with Parthia, barbarian invasions, economic turmoil. Marcus stood firm with Stoic principles. The outside world can't corrupt your soul unless you let it, he wrote. Stoicism's inner fortress was his refuge. One of his first moves was naming his brother Lucius Verus co-emperor. Senators were shocked, some even mocked him. But Marcus knew sharing power was a virtue. In his meditations, he wrote, "Virtue grows when shared." A senator asked, "Why split your power?" Marcus, with a calm smile, replied, "Because a leader lives for the people." Another day, an advisor said, "Sharing power is weakness." Marcus narrowed his eyes and shot back, "No, sharing is courage." So how often do you choose to share success? The Parthian War tested Marcus's leadership with fire. In desert camps plotting strategies with generals, he fought an inner battle too. A general's bad call put thousands of soldiers' lives at risk. Anger surged in his chest, but he paused. "Today I avoided anger," he wrote. "I chose reason." Stoicism's principle of moderation saved him. The war ended in victory in 166, but it cast a dark shadow: the Antonine Plague. Marcus couldn't even savor the win before a new disaster loomed. The desert's victory cries turned into Rome's deathly silence. Marcus reflected on the irony. Victory is sometimes just a beginning. In Meditations, he wrote, "Life is full of unexpected blows. Be ready for them." The plague devoured Rome like a ghost. Millions died, cities emptied, and streets echoed with wails. Marcus carried his people's pain in his heart. In a hospital, a mother of a dying child begged, "Emperor, save my son." Marcus's heart broke. "I'll do all I can," he said, voice trembling. In his Meditations, he wrote, "Pain is inevitable. Suffering is your choice." Stoicism's amor fati, love of fate, kept his soul steady. He got resources to doctors, handed out food to the poor. A doctor said, "This is the God's curse." Marcus, eyes blazing, replied, "Then we'll break this curse." Another day, a villager in a food line thanked him. Marcus said, "It's my duty." But a shadow lingered in his eyes. One night, he visited a plague-ravaged village. Walking among the dead, he whispered to himself, "This is part of fate, but we can still walk with hope." In another moment, he saw a mother clutching her child's lifeless body. He couldn't hold back tears, but stayed calm. "Her pain is my pain," he wrote. "So how do you face disasters? Do you curse them or search for solutions?" The plague tore Marcus' family apart. Most of his 13 children died. When he got news of his youngest son's death, tears streamed down his face. He picked up his pen. Grieving is natural, but giving up isn't. Stoicism's memento mori, remember death, kept him grounded. An advisor asked, "How do you stay calm through so much loss?" Marcus replied, "Because death is life's shadow." One night, lost in memories of his kids, he wrote, "They're gone, but their love lives in me." A senator said, "These losses weaken you." Marcus, with a quiet smile, replied, "No, they shape me." Another day, he found his dead child's toy bear. He pressed it to his chest and whispered, "Your moment is my eternity." So what do you do in the face of loss? Do you push it away or keep going? Marcus' marriage to Faustina was his deepest test. Rome's schemers whispered that she was unfaithful. Gossip spread like poison. Marcus didn't give it a second thought. In his Meditations, he wrote, "Other people's words reflect their souls. You stick to your own truth." Stoicism's principle of inner peace shone bright here. One night, he looked at Faustina and whispered, "Every moment with you is more real than their rumors." An advisor said, "Everyone's talking about her infidelity." Marcus narrowed his eyes and replied, "What's on their tongues isn't in my heart." Another day, walking with Faustina in a garden, the shadow of gossip hung over them, but Marcus held her hand. "Your love is my truth." Faustina, eyes brimming, asked, "Why do you trust me so much?" Marcus smiled, "Because I chose you." One night, as Faustina slept, he kissed her forehead and wrote, "Love is where gossip falls silent." So how do you stand tall in the shadow of rumors? How much do other people's judgments wound your soul? Marcus' final years were spent on the cold banks of the Danube River. The war against barbarian tribes wore his body down. In his tent, with the wind howling, he wrote, "Every morning ask, what can I control today? My anger, my fear, my choices." Stoicism's principle of discipline kept his soul intact. One night, in the thick of battle, he saw a soldier trembling with fear. He touched his shoulder. "Fear's natural. Courage is your choice." The soldier smiled through tears. Marcus wrote in his meditations, "Courage is moving forward despite fear." In 175, his friend Avidius Cassius betrayed him, declaring himself emperor in Rome. When Marcus heard, his heart broke, but he didn't give in to anger. "Other people's mistakes are their test," he wrote. He chose to forgive Cassius, but Cassius was killed. Marcus hid his tears. "I wish we could have talked." An advisor asked, "Why forgive him?" Marcus replied, "Because forgiveness frees the soul." Another night, he read a letter from Cassius that said, "Forgive me." Marcus pressed it to his chest. "I already had." So what would you do with betrayal? Burn with anger or heal with forgiveness? Marcus' inner world was his greatest battlefield. Every night he faced his own flaws. "I was impatient today," he wrote. "I didn't listen to a senator. Maybe I didn't understand enough. Tomorrow I'll do better." Stoicism's memento mori, remember death, pushed him to be a better person. "Life's short," he wrote. "Live it devoted to virtue." One night in his tent, scribbling by candlelight, he thought about his own death. "Death isn't an end, it's a transformation," he murmured. Marcus wanted to be remembered as a human, not just an emperor. Another day, he recalled a soldier asking, "Emperor, why do you write so much?" Marcus smiled, "Because I want to remember who I am." One night, while writing meditations, he felt his loneliness. "This pen is my truest friend," he wrote. "It's the mirror of my soul." Every line he wrote strengthened his inner fortress. In meditations, he said, "Be honest with yourself. The world's full of lies. So how do you face your flaws? How honest are you with yourself?" 180 AD. Marcus, at 58, was wasting away in the grip of illness. His body was giving out, but his soul stood like a fortress. In his final days, he called for his son, Commodus. Young and ambitious, Commodus lacked his father's virtue. Marcus knew this. Still, he looked at him and whispered, "Be just, my son. Love Rome." Commodus saw the hope in his father's eyes, but his heart was set on a different path. Marcus wrote in meditations, "Don't grieve what you can't control. Stay true to your virtue." He tried to teach Commodus Stoicism. One day, Commodus asked, "Father, why do you stay so calm?" Marcus smiled, "Because anger enslaves the soul." But Commodus would stray from his father's path. Marcus saw it coming but didn't give up. Another night, he recalled memories of Commodus as a child, carrying him in his arms. He wrote, "A father can't stop loving his son, but fate chooses his path." In his final moments, he held Commodus' hand and whispered, "I forgive you, my son. Love is forgiveness." In meditations, he wrote, "Life is a moment. Live it well. The rest is in the universe's hands." On March 17, 1800, Marcus Aurelius passed away. But his words shone like a beacon across centuries. A legacy, a light. Marcus's legacy wasn't a throne, it was a soul. As he wrote in meditations, "What harms you isn't events, but the meaning you give them." Today, in the 21st century, his words still guide us. His life was a mirror of Stoicism. Know what you can control, stay true to virtue, embrace fate, be just. So what would you do in Marcus' place? Which Stoic principle would you cling to in your own storms? This story isn't just Marcus. It's all of ours. Because we're all fighting our own battles, sitting on our own thrones in the midst of our own storms.